Hello everyone, I am Udoka Ezekwe. Today we are going to be making a nice design, our first beautiful design, but I have the image here, the screenshot of the design I want us to be making. So look carefully, you see this design. Today I'm going to be designing this beautiful interface. It is a web page, but I have screenshot it from a website. So let's go down to the coding. But before we start, please make sure you've started your WAMP server or your XAMPP. Always look at the tray to see it as you normally do it. Also go to your browser and type localhost. If you see WAMP server like this or XAMPP, that means you are good to go. So open your IDE. Nothing is open here. Let me double click on index.php to open our previous code. So I want this design to be inside this index.php. So right click inside this index.php, click on run file. This is what we have here. This is the first thing we designed, but I don't want this design to be in this index.php from now onwards, because index.php is a home page. That is, it is a first page that loads whenever a website is being called. That is, whenever this project is being called without the index. So index is what we load. Now let's go back to the NetBeans. On top of these source files, right click, go to new, go to PHP file, create a temporal page called temp, click finish. Now go on top of this index.php, click on it, click inside it, do Ctrl A to highlight everything, right click inside it, click cut. We pick everything, we cut everything and place it in your clipboard. Now go to temp.php, do Ctrl A to highlight everything. Now right click inside this highlighted area and click paste. Now do Ctrl S to save this temp. So if you run this temp, it will be showing what we have inside our index. If you look at the path, localhost, first head, which is our project, this is temp.php, the page we created now. So we have saved our previous codes inside it. Go back to your NetBeans. Now close this temp. Now index.php is empty. So let's start and make that design. I will start with what? Doc type, HTML, head, title, home page, body, so inside this body you have to think before you start writing a code. You have to think, what do I want to achieve? Me, because I want to design this, I will always open it to look at it to see what that make up this page. So first of all, when you look at this page, you see that it has a menu links, which is the SARS, home, featured, pricing, resources. These are the links that can take you to another page. Another thing, if you look at this design, you see that the contents didn't start from the main edge, that is from the starting edge of the page. So everything comes closer to the middle a bit, not actually inside the middle, but everything, all the content, the text and the image leaves their border side and comes in a little bit inside. So that is CSS work. CSS we used to do such is we called padding left and padding right. Padding left we bring every content by the left and bring it to the middle a bit. Padding right we bring from the right and bring it in the middle a bit. So we're going to see all that. So and you see it has a background color, and also it has a buttons, so, and it has an image. So these are the things we'll be considering. So I will start by doing what, creating an element which I will do what, work on the designed framework, which is bringing everything to the middle a bit and also give a background color. That's the first thing I will do. So how do I do it? I'm going to create a tag called section. You can use div if you want, section, but I'm trying to use different tags. So section, let it be our based section, and div does the same thing. Is kind of use it to partition. You use it to partition your codes, or use it to hold bunch of your tags, other tags. So I'm going to be using section to hold everything together. So I'm going to write a style inside it. Then I'll give it what? Okay, I won't give a margin, sorry, a padding now till we start writing something inside it, so that you see when the adjustment happen. But now I'm going to just give it a background color. A background color, you can give it a black if you want. You can give it a black if you want. Me, I've already saved the color in hex. That color that you are seeing on this design, I've already saved the background color of it. See the hexadecimal. A color can exist in text or it can exist in hexadecimal number. So see the hexadecimal number here. So background color, I'm going to copy that code, that hexadecimal color, and place here. Then I'm going to terminate. Then height, I'm going to give this a 700 px. So let's test the page. Oh, we have not run it. Let's right click and click run file. So this is the first thing we just achieved now. So what else? We have to do what? Look at the design again and see what do we have. We have those words, menu links. Let's start. We create a div for it. Now after creating the div for it, you start writing the links or anchor. Start with a href, the page where it's going, but we don't have page for now. We're going to leave it blank. Then what do we have here? The sax. So the sax is what we have. Another one is what? Home. I will copy and paste the same thing. I will just highlight, copy and paste to avoid us spending much time. I'm going to be copying and pasting. Home, feature pricing, home with capital letter, feature pricing, resources, contacts, resource This contact. So let's refresh this page so we can see. But if you look now, you see how it looks, but this is not how it looks here. This one comes down a bit and it has color of white. So what should I do? Let me first of all give it a color. But have you asked yourself, if we want to give a color to this link, these links here, I will start writing CSS here. One, I will write CSS here. I will write CSS just because I want to give color. Here I will write CSS. That will take me time. So there is another type of CSS called advanced CSS. This one is not a bootstrap, but indirectly it's called advanced CSS. The one we were doing before is inline CSS. The CSS we are writing and the HTML tag. But this particular one, we are not going to be writing it in HTML tag. We are going to be writing it inside the head of our HTML tag. So let's go to this div. This is the div that holds these links. This is the div that holds this link. So if we want to talk to these links, we have to talk from the mother or from the parent. In a layman understanding, this div is a parent element to these links. These links are child element to this div. So because of the type of style we want to use, I'm going to give this parent an ID called a links. It must not be a links. If you want to do your own, you can call it any other thing. So now that I've given it an ID, I have to come inside this head and start a style. I will write style, type text slash CSS. This is our style. Now inside this style, we have to do what? Call this div ID, because we want to put a color to all this A. So how do you do it? You use this ID, which is the identifier of this div, to access the children. So in the style, in the advanced style, you use hash. Then you type hash is what you use hash to identify, to call a particular ID or to call a particular HTML ID. So you see, hash a link means please go to this div. So now I have to give space A. Then I'm going to open a brace bracket. So this thing means go to this div anywhere you see this div ID. This is an ID. Once you use hash, it means that you're talking to ID. So go to this ID, which is the div of it. It is a parent. Inside it, you have a children called A or A's. Then inside it, now all the CSS property we're going to be writing inside this brace bracket. Please put this property inside them. So what will I now do? I will now say color white, close. Now refresh. What did you see? You see it has given all of them a color, called all color of white. So I will have to come down just to do more tweaking. Just going to put dash 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 in between these A's, just to give them more spaces. We refresh. So it has given them just little more spacing. Now let me look at my design. You see, now you see where this SAS starts. It didn't start from the beginning of the edge. that is at the edge of the design. So now I'm going to use now my padding to do what? To take all these links to the center a bit. Where will I do it? You do it from the what? The main holder, which is this section. Because after the body, you now have section. Section is everything that holds all the content inside the body. So I'm going to do what? Right padding left means everything inside this section, please shift it to the center, from left to center a bit. So how many padding do I want to add to it? I will say use 60. Terminate with semicolon. Refresh. Can you see it has shifted it from left to right? But because I don't want only from left to right, I also want everything from right to come inside a bit. I have to do another padding, right? 60px. This one you won't notice it because we don't have any content touching at the edge of the right, but this picture, had it been we didn't do it, this picture will be touching at the edge of the right design box. So let's go back. Now we have done the menu. What else are we going to do? We are going to start working on this, how developers work on this image. So go back to your design, be careful your tag and where you are going to position your any of your tags to avoid mix up. So I touch the section to see where my section stop. I touch the link for the, I touch the ID for the link, for the, I touch the div for the link. I see where it stopped. So under it, when you look at the design, you see there is a space before you start having what? Your text, which is how developers work. So I'm going to design first before I put in the break line. Div, I'm going to start a div. This div is where I'm going to be what? Designing my text and the image. So the text inside the div, inside this div, I'm going to use a tag called article to write my information. What do I see there first? How developers work. So I'm going to write, okay, I can use h3 or h2, how developers work. Don't mind me, I will always open it to see how it is, how developers works. So under it, there is another information. Support your workflow with a lightweight. So I'm going to use span. Support your what? Workflow. Put your workflow with lightweight. I won't mind my English for now. Weight tools and features dot. Then I'm going to start another span just to respect the design, to do it exactly the way it is, because the other detail which starts with work how you work best, it starts in the next line. Work how you work best. Work how you work best. We will follow your lead. So let's check how this looks. You see where it is at the top. It is at the top and it's not looking fine, so we're going to use a color to make it look good. We're going to change this H2 using inline CSS, give it a color of white. Give it a color of white. Then if you see this span and this span is not supposed to be on the same line when you look at the design, but in my own case here, let me give it color first so that you'll be seeing it clearly. This span, let me give them color. This one is not fully white. I'm going to use width. This second span, the first one is color. The color is pure white. Color white. Let me refresh. So okay, no, the second one, the color is wrong. Let me use white for now. Let's not start waiting for color this thing. So you see, this is the second span. It's not supposed to be here. We're going to bring it down. So how will you do it? This is the first span. You come to the middle of the the middle of the first span and the second span. You put a break line. You save, refresh. You bring it down. Let's go to the picture design. Okay, so but there is a big space after the menu. There is a big space before you start having how developers work. So what will you do? You locate the tag that hold this information entirely. It is this div, and here is the link div. Here is the link div. So in between them, you give a space. You start writing breakdown. You put it, copy and paste it as many as you can, to carry that down. Oh, if you notice this menu, this SaaS homepage, it has a little space at the top. Our own doesn't have that space. Please go at the div, the link div, at the top of it, put 2 break line there, just to bring that links down. Refresh. Is it okay? Our own, okay, is it good? Our own is 2 down. Let's remove 1 break. Oh, sorry. Let's remove 1 break and have only 1. Save, check. So it's okay like this. Let's check our design. Okay, I think we are good to go. All right, what next? What next is this picture. We are going to be bringing this picture in. How do we go about it? We already have an image here, images folder. So I have a saved picture on my desktop. I have a saved picture, so I'm going to copy it. What is the name? Lapi2. I'm going to copy it. See it, right click on it, find your own, find wherever you have a picture, copy it, open your NetBeans, right click on top of images and paste. So I have Lapi2, which I just, when you double click on it, it will open in the middle. Go back to your index.php where we're working on. So go and locate where the div that is holding that article. So inside that article, inside that div of the article, at the end of the article tag, go down, use enter key to go down, open a tag called image, but we use img to put image. After img, you now say source, which is src. Now where is the image? The image is inside images folder / what, Lapi. close. Now refresh. You see where it is displaying under it now. But if you look at the design, this image is by the right and the text is by the left. So what will you do? You use a CSS called floating CSS. Use it to separate two items or two HTML tags, left and right. So meaning left and right is that, what I mean by left and right is the first tag must be floated left before the second tag will be floated right. You can't just float this one left without floating this one right, and you can't just float this one right without floating this one left, else you have issue. So I will start with this article. I will start a style in it and I will say float left. So it will carry this article and point it at the end, like hold it, stand still by the left. Then in this image you start a style in it and say float right. So it will take it to the right. Save it with Ctrl S, open your browser and refresh. So you see, I think we are getting there. So what next is the button. So we are going to do what? Come inside this div that is holding this article and image and start a button. The first button there is button. You use button tag BUTT. You start a button. It has open and close. What information do you have there? Learn more. Then you have another button which is what? Sign up. Is it in capital letter? All of them are in capital letter. Sign up. Learn more. So these are the two buttons we have on this page. So you can see, so but where it is not where this one is. So I'm going to use a break line. This is the first button, this is the second button. So I'm going to use a break line to break it, to bring them down. So I've written the first one. I'm going to save, Ctrl S, come back to browser and refresh. It's still there. So I'm going to use this break line as many as I can use in order to take it down a bit. Save it with Ctrl S, come back to the browser and refresh. It's not working. So let's see why it is not working. This floats okay. Let me see. No, this can be button. Okay, let's put this. Oh, don't mind me. This button supposed to have its own div. This button supposed to have its own div. Let me see. Are you serious? Don't worry, HTML can be like that. Don't worry, I will get it right. If I get it, I will take it a bit slow then. Alright, let me remove this div and see why it is not working. There must be a conflict. there must be a conflict. Okay, let's take it back inside here where we were before. Let's use this first. Let me use a link. The first, let me use a link. Let me change this button to a link. Let me change this button to a link. So I have changed this button to a link. That is what I just did, just to see it changes, if the changes will work. It didn't work, means that there is an error. So I'm going to use Ctrl Z to take it back to where it was. Okay, let me create a div inside here. Let's see if div will do its magic as it used to do sometimes. Okay, good. So you see what happened because of that float can be tricky. So I'm happy that this error occurred, so that you know that sometimes a programmer can face an issue, but what makes you a real programmer or a developer is your consistency, troubleshooting, finding a way to solve your problem. So what happened is that after floating this to left and floating this element, after floating this element to left and floating this to right, we're supposed to create a div that will hold another element, and inside that div we can now put our break line. The break line cannot come here, that is, it cannot come close to any element that you floated left and right. It has to come inside the div, because div use it to partition something. So I just created a div now and I put that break line here. Don't forget what we did before is this. There wasn't break line, there wasn't space in between this text and the button. So I have to do what? Create this div. See this div. See the opening of it and see the closing of it. Then this is what did the magic. This break line and this div that I created. Then this is the first button and this is the second button. So we have, if you look, this is it. Don't worry about this chat icon down here in this design. We are not going to be doing that because that is not a design, it's an API they got somewhere. So let's look at our own. Let's add more break. Let's add more break to shift it down more. Save it with Ctrl S. Come here and refresh. Oh, not just this. Sorry, I think it's the div, is the break line at the top. So I cut all this break line that is this inside this div and I put it at the top of this div. Let me see if it's a two. So you see what is happening. So the break line needs a two breaking line, one in this top of the div, two at inside the div. All this celebration you are seeing here is because of this floating we use. If not, on a normal day, break will just break, it doesn't care. But this floating here is affecting it. But don't worry, we have achieved what we want to achieve. So see it here. We can even bring it down more. We can even add more break line here. And anything we add in the front and the top, we add it inside the div. Save, refresh. So this button now and this image laptop has the same lining now. So if you look this design, they look a bit alike, but we are not done. this button, we need to touch this button a bit so that it will look like this one. So the first one, see it has a background of what? Black, and what? A color of white. So see our own, see their own. So what are we going to do? And it has a border of white. So go back to the first button, start a style, then give it a background color, let it be black, then close it with semicolon, start another property, color, let it be white, save it with Ctrl S, go back to browser, refresh. So you see it is a bit better, but I don't want it to be like this. I want to give it a width, let it be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to give it a width. Which width will be okay? Let me start with 70px and save and test to see the width is too small. So let me increase it 130. Ctrl S to save. Come to the browser, refresh. This one, the B, okay, it's okay. So let's give it a height. At the end of the semicolon, you start a property height, let's say 40px, save, go to the browser, okay, let's see, okay, I think the height is too big. You can reduce it, set at 5, save. So it's okay, let's manage this. You can play around with the properties and put the one that will suit your design. So but if you look this their own, it has the button there, the lemon button is curved. So we normally use border reduce to curve. So we now say border reduce, border reduce, border reduce. So let's use 8px. Save, Ctrl S, open browser, refresh. So it has given it a border reduce. So I think we are good to go. We are good to go. It's just that their own color is okay. I can pick the color if I want. I have a software here called color pick, but if you don't have this software, you don't mind. This one I'm going to do now is just I want to pick a color. If you don't mind, you can use that black that is there. Don't worry about this thing that I want to do now. I just want to pick this their button color. I will just carry my mouse on top, and I will be looking at this my color picker. It's showing me the hex, which is 2C2F36. 2, okay, we have changed 252 82F. So I can change it to 5282F. This is the same color we used before. Okay, it's good. So this is the color. I think it's okay now. It's the same color we used in this whole background design. So the sign up button, let's look at this design. It has a background of what? A background of white and a color of somehow black. So what are you going to do? You come here and start a style, say a background color white, you close it, you say width, give it the same width we gave the upper one, 130px, give it a height, 35px, you save, Ctrl S, go to your browser and refresh. Good. Now let's make it to look, let's make the sign up button to be rounded. We use border reduce. What? Let's even use, okay, 8 ps, the same thing we used in the upper button. So this is the design we are seeing here. This is the design we are seeing here. So I believe you guys understood what we did or what I did just now. It is not a big deal. This is a nice design which when you bend down and focus, you will learn how to design a website. So this is a simple, beautiful home page we just designed now. So practice it carefully so that you can achieve it. Take it step by step. As you are watching the video, you can be pausing it so that you can do what? Follow up every step that I took. In any stage that you see that I'm trying to solve a problem or run around, you can hold on and be looking at me. When you see that I've gotten it, you can write my code now. Then, so this is it. Write it the way you are seeing it. Write it the way you are seeing it. After writing, don't forget, anytime you write a code, before you go to browser and refresh, use Ctrl S to save the page. Alright, see you guys in the next tutorial.